Snow fell endlessly across the valley, a white curtain that erased paths, silenced forests, and pressed against the roofs of every forgotten dwelling. Among the trees, half hidden beneath layers of frost, stood a lonely stone cottage. Its walls were built from weathered blocks, its roof steep and sagging under the weight of snow. Smoke rose from its crooked chimney, curling into the pale sky like the breath of some tired beast. The villagers who once lived in the valley had long since vanished. Their laughter, their footsteps, and their festivals were swallowed by years of silence. Only one inhabitant remained, a young man named Ekran. He was the son of a village tailor, but now the tailor's family line had narrowed to him alone. His craft was not only in cloth but in words, for he sewed fabric by day and stories by night. Thread and tales, these were his twin inheritances. Inside the cottage, Ekram kept a small workshop. Wooden shelves sagged with scraps of wool and fur, while a single table was scattered with needles, spools and patterns. On long nights, when the wind rattled the shutters and the fire hissed in protest, he stitched in silence. Yet the silence was never complete. His mother's memory whispered to him still, reminding him of truths he could neither unlearn nor escape. She had once told him, "Cloth protects the body from cold, but not the soul from loneliness." Loneliness was indeed his constant companion. The valley's only road was called the Silent Path, a trail buried beneath snow and legend. Once caravans had traveled it, carrying bells, goods, and distant voices. Now only the wind traveled it, dragging faint echoes behind. Ekram sometimes thought he heard footsteps or a faraway bell when the snow was heaviest, but when he opened the door, there was nothing but white emptiness. This night, the storm deepened. Trees bent under their icy burden, and the sky pressed so low it seemed to drape itself like cloth across the world. Ekram sat by his hearth, guiding a needle through a torn cloak, when he heard it, a knock at the door. It was not loud, not frantic. It was delicate, almost hesitant, as though the visitor feared to disturb even the silence. For a moment he froze, staring at the wooden frame. No one had knocked on this door in years. He rose, pushed aside the smoke haze, and pulled the latch. On the threshold stood a young woman, cloaked in white. Snowflakes clung to her shawl like scattered pearls, and her eyes held the weary glimmer of someone who had traveled too far. "My name is Layla," she said softly. "I seek only a night's shelter." Ekram studied her carefully. Strangers did not appear in this valley, yet her voice was no ghost's whisper, and her figure no illusion of snow. He stepped aside. "Come in," he said. "Here there is fire against the storm, but the heart that no cottage can guard." Layla entered, stamping snow from her boots. She sat by the fire, stretching her hands toward its warmth. For a moment they listened to the crackling flames, the only sound filling the room. Her gaze wandered to the wall, where a tapestry hung, a relic of his mother's hand. Its blue threads depicted mountains, a river, and a tiny house with smoke rising into the sky. Layla's lips parted. "Who wove this?" she asked. "My mother," Ekram answered. "She used to say that wherever smoke rises, prayers rise too." Layla closed her eyes and drew a long breath. "Then this house must be filled with prayers." They sat in silence again, but it was not the heavy silence of loneliness. It was the softer kind, the one that binds strangers together before words can. The fire popped. Outside, the storm raged. At last, Layla drew something from her pocket. It was a small wooden carving, a river splitting into two streams before reuniting again. She placed it gently on the table. "My father gave me this," she said. "He told me that paths sometimes part, but if we trust the current, they will meet again." Ekran traced the carving with his finger. "And what path have you taken to come here?" Her eyes reflected the flames. "I have walked roads where snow does not only bury the body but buries memory too. I search for voices lost beneath these drifts. They say a village once lived in this valley, a village swallowed by silence. I want to find their story." "Then you are a seeker of tales," Ekram murmured. "And you?" she asked. He lifted his needle, still threaded. "I sew garments, and sometimes I sew words. Both require patience. Both must be layered, or the cold will slip through." They shared a small smile. As the storm pressed against the cottage, the night deepened. Layla drew her cloak tighter. "Tell me, what is the true name of this place?" "Sumisub," Ekram replied. "The stone of dawn. They say the first light of morning always touches this cottage before the rest of the valley. Or perhaps," she whispered, "the light lingers here because it carries voices that no longer have mouths to speak them. Her words struck something deep within him, a chamber of memory he rarely entered. He remembered his father's laughter frozen forever in the past. He stoked the fire and said quietly, "If you stay the night, I will share with you the tale my father told me, the tale that has lived beneath this snow for generations." Layla bowed her head in gratitude. Thus the first watch of the night passed. Two wanderers bound not by blood but by need, one who stitched stories into fabric, and one who followed stories across forgotten paths. The cottage itself seemed to listen, its stone walls drinking in their presence. The fire burned steady, the wind prowled outside, and the snow fell unceasing, layering silence upon silence. Within that silence, however, something stirred. The story had begun its weaving, thread by thread, and once a story begins, it rarely agrees to sleep again.